Hello there, it's David Taylor on Mr Pelargonium, back with another one of my video blog for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. It's post-show time. I'm going to show you all the runners and riders that were in the show with the winners. So sit back and enjoy the video of the winners from the national show held on the 22nd of June 2019. Okay then, here we go with this look at the winners at this year's 2019 Pelargonium and Geranium Society National Show, and another utterly stunning display by all of the exhibitors, and a big thank you must go out to everybody that put plants in. We had absolutely masses of them this year, just like last. In fact, there were actually more entries. Now, start with class 1. This is the 3-pot class where you have a basic zonal, a dwarf zonal and a miniature zonal. First in this class was Ian Anderson, and there they are, 3 plants: Gyps Meg, a miniature; Brackenwood, a dwarf; and Procele Dawn was the big boy, the big basic zonal at the back. Absolutely splendid trio of plants. The 2 plants of Regal, I have to say it's yours truly that won this one. I was really quite lucky with this, I thought. Winning plant, an Elsie Taylor at the front, named after my mum, and a Lilac Elaine at the back, looking quite good. I had a couple of pairs in there. We're using the same plants actually, one with normal Elaine as opposed to lilac. Moving on to the 2 plants of Angel, and the top Angel grower, Bob Clark, really pulled the stops out with this one. Quantock Millennium and Quantock Louise at the front, and Millennium at the back. Quite unusual to see that in the shows. We saw that at Bristol a couple of weeks ago. Now, 2 plants of miniature zonal. Ian Anderson again, top grower, really does the business with his miniatures. Gyps Meg and Flaming Katie are the plants here. Flaming Katie at the front, always does well with miniatures, Ian does. Now, 2 plants Dwarf Zonals. This is 2 plants of, and I had a Bold Cherub at the back and one of my Shrivenham Stars at the front. This was, again, I thought I was relatively fortunate with the judging of this one. But yeah, a good pair of plants, and you know, I thought I was relatively lucky in that class. But a lovely, really brilliant examples of dwarf plants put in by everybody here. Now, next we have move on to the miniature Stellas. The miniature Stellas, again, Ian Anderson, he really does know how to grow a miniature plant. And this is Kitbridge at the front and a plant called Lisa Joe at the back. He always does very well with Kitbridge, lovely red colour, and really done very well with all of his zonal type plants and hybrids. Now, the 2 plants of Dwarf Stella, I had a May Last at the back, the bicolour, and Robin Louise was at the front. So I did quite well in that one. Now, moving on, the single plant of Angel, the Bob Clark, once again with a Quantock Louise, always does very well. Probably one of the top Angel growers in the country, really. Bob Clark really is a top grower. Moving on to the Regals, I got 2 that are side by side. This is the 1 plant series now. This is one of my own seedlings, a lovely white base, always does very well for me, and it's a little bit late flowering, and so that did quite well for me this year, being a later show. Moving on to the single basic zonals, Ian Anderson again with a Procele Dawn, looking utterly stunning. As I say, Ian's a top grower. The basic zonals, I did very well here with a point south. Always does very well for me, this plant. And that won the best basic zonal in the show, actually. Quite lucky with that, and I thought that was a good plant though. Moving through and on, this is the Ivy Leaf Varieties. This is a little blooming gem, looks absolutely stunning. I think that was in about a 5-inch pot. Really good looking plant. Moving on to the tricolours. This done very well. Ian again, Hilda's Memory, that one's called, which is quite an unusual variety. The bicolours, a little baby one on this one, a Petit Pierre, a lovely little miniature bicolour zonal. Always does very well for him. And I think he's had that in the show for a few years now. Now, Bembridge is a plant that Ian Anderson grows very well, and this really won most of the dwarf variety type plants in the show, and he had a really good win with Bembridge on that. And moving on to the Floribundas, he also did very well with a larger growing version of it. As we saw there, another large potted Bembridge. Right, moving through, this is miniature Stellas, single plant of Kelly Browham was the winner there, another Ian Anderson plant. Moving through and on to the Dwarf Zonals, and this was another one of mine, Shrivenham Star, always does very well, it's my own plant, does well for me. And that won that class. Again, a superb spread. Moving on to the Dwarf Angel, and who else would it be? Bob Clark with another stunning Quantot Louise. Right, moving on through to the single flowering miniature zonals. This was actually won by Julie Kitson with a plant called Hadley. Very dark leaf plant, looked really good. Miniature zonal doubles, again Ian Anderson comes up, trumps with a Gyps Meg. Just focus round on the plant, there it is. Always makes a good plant, Gyps Meg. I think it probably grows better as a dwarf myself, but Ian's done very, very well. Always grows it as a miniature very well indeed. Really good plant, lovely variety, and always does well for him. Okay, now the one plant Stella, these are basic Stellas. This was actually won by Ian Anderson with a plant of Wyn Ellison. Now, we just sort of scooted past Mrs May last, and that comes second in this particular class, but it did get the best bicolour zonal or zonal hybrid in the show, so I was quite pleased with that. But Ian Anderson, again, stunning example of Wyn Ellison. Really beautiful plant. And congratulations to him with that one. The Dwarf Stellas. This was where my Brian West Butterfly won the class. A really beautiful looking plant. I knew that was going to do quite well. Excuse the finger on the tip of the camera there. So we move through and move on to the species. And this was won by Peter Waving with Pelargonium, Pelargonium. And that really stunning example. Beautiful colouring of the leaves and looking really, really good. Now over to the scenteds. Now a couple of weeks ago at the Bristol show, we saw Bob Clark's Galway Star, and there it is, it's come through again. Won the class, best scented leaf as well. Absolutely stunning example of a fantastic plant. Moving on to the the standards. That was won by Graham Strevens, and I'm very pleased with him with a Mrs Pollock that we just saw there. Moving on to the hanging baskets. This is of any type, so you can have a coned one. And this was a Vilda Paris Pink, and grown by Tom Kirkland and Robert Barclay. Moving quickly on to the hanging pots, 8-inch hanging pot, and that was a Lilac Gem by Ian Anderson. Now the class for the 8-inch hanging pot that's non-ivy leaf went to this lovely example of Ashby in an 8-inch hanging pot grown by David Steele. Right, now it's always good to see a display. We don't often get them every year, and this was one presented by Tom Kirkland all the way from Scotland, and a brilliant display, 2.5 foot square, looking superb. Now this geranium, this is hardy geranium class 56, and this is a plant of Orkney cherryus, one obviously named or grown in Scotland, and this won the best in show. Unusual for a hardy geranium to get it, but very well done to Tom Kirkland and Robert Barkley for growing that one through. But that won the award, that got the best in show. Really stunning plant, and very well done to both of you. Now then, if I can get my finger out the way, that is, I do apologise for that. We're into the erodium. This is a plant called Bishop's Form, grown by Derek Lee in a small little thing grown in about a 5-inch pot, I would say. I didn't know on the day, but a very pretty little erodium that is. Very good plant, and well done to Derek. Now we move finally on to the, this is the commercial zonal variety. Grown, this is a basic zonal. This is not a hardy geranium. Obviously it's as ordinary zonal pelargonium, but this is the ones that are grown for you know, the commercial outlets, garden centres, etc. And this was a plant called Julia, grown by Harold Webb, and very well done to Harold. Yeah, so there we are. It was a very interesting show. I mean, it was one where I probably think the plants that I thought were going to do spectacularly well perhaps did okay, but ones that I didn't think were perhaps going to do too well actually did a lot better than I was expecting. Right, yeah, so one that I was particularly pleased with was this own seedling of mine, which actually won the best Regal. It's one that I've had. This actual plant is about 5 years old actually, and it was is one of the first sort of Regals that I bred actually, and I'm very pleased with it. It did actually get the best Regal in the 2016 show that was held in Capel Manor over in North London there, and this, you know, this has come through. The only very minor problem with it is slightly later flowering, but as everybody knows, I stopped my plants in December this year, and this, because our show, I suppose, was a little bit later than usual, this was spot on perfect for it. So I'm very pleased that this seedling, you know, did come through and got the best in show for the Regal, best Regal in show. Interesting scenario, of course, that it was a hardy geranium that won the best in show this year. So that was something very different, and it was a very good plant, very unusual plant, and that's, I think, what the judges particularly liked. So it's good to see you again. I'll see you again very soon. I've got lots of other videos which I'm making in and around these ones, so we'll see you again soon.